Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farba. Occupied Crimea is facing fuel shortages, transport disruptions, and canceled public events after a wave of Ukrainian strikes on Russian supply routes. At the same time, Kyiv is signaling it could respond more forcefully to Belarusian support for Russian attacks, while Russian troops continue to press forward one of Ukraine's most important defensive hubs in Donbas. Now, joining us to talk about more is Vitalii Rishko, founder and lead strategic advisor, Equilibrium Strategic Advisory, Peace and Security Fellow, Global Governance Institute. Good to have you with us. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, there's been a lot of attacks by Ukraine, really focusing on Crimea. Let's talk about that first. And what do you make of this announcement by Russian-installed occupied authorities that actually this fuel is now rationed, it's no longer available for the civilian population? How significant is that?
I think that is a very significant political development in years of this full-scale invasion, because I think now it actually threatens Putin's political legitimacy, I guess, because we know that his level of political support and approval by Russian citizens was largely based by the illegal annexation of Crimea. And now we see that Ukraine has managed to really rebuild its defense sector to the point where those aerial attacks by Ukrainian drones are becoming increasingly painful for Russia. And I think that if this campaign will continue to be as systemic as it is right now, it is quite possible that it will have a huge consequences for Russia's military operations in the south, because Crimea won't be used as much as it is used now to deliver supplies to the front line and manpower and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. You're also saying that this could directly challenge Putin's political legitimacy. Also, as you said, he's trying to very much be a beacon of success. This challenges that narrative. I'm also curious what you make of, I think, one of Ukraine's ministers who's just come out saying Crimea could effectively become an island. How realistic is that? Is that seen, what do you make of that? Is that a military objective here, or is that more psychological and political?
I think I think it's both, because as of recently, I think Ukraine has all the capacity to really destroy the Crimean bridge. We don't know for sure whether the sea drone that was introduced recently, Sea Trident, which is a huge drone, whether it would be able to hit the bridge really well, but as far as we are also expecting ballistic missiles to be used by Ukraine, the missiles it has produced domestically, I think that is a possible scenario. And we've seen also those recent attacks that were conducted just nearby the Crimean bridge. And also many of Russia's air defenses have been destroyed in the previous weeks around Crimea. So I think what you would normally expect, that the attacks on Crimea will not stop, they will only be strengthened further.
Mm-hmm. And also, you mentioned the bridge, the Kerch Bridge, which Ukraine has struck and damaged in the past before. Let's just put the scenario this way. If they maintain that kind of pressure, they damage the bridge or even destroy it significantly, they take out the ferry crossings, also that land corridor, right? If we also have seen, I think, Melitopol and that whole stretch down into Donbas, Ukrainians attacking that as well. If they do all of that, do you reckon this will cease, let's say, the ability of Russia to funnel its military logistics into Crimea?
Yes, definitely. And I think it could be also very consequential for the overall battlefield dynamics, because as we know, for many years already, Ukraine has been largely conducting only very limited counter-offensive operations, and that could actually open up the door for something even bigger. But that has to be seen, because nowadays we can't even make any proper forecast regarding offensive operations because of the transparency of the front lines, the massive use of drones, the landmines, and all of that complicates any large-scale offensive operations. And we see that on based on Russia's experience and the number of casualties they have on a daily basis, which is just unimaginable.
You mentioned also the battlefield. I mean, Crimea is very much in the crosshairs right now of Ukrainian forces. But at the same time, let's go also to a battlefield more into the area of Kostiantynivka in the Donbas. That's been very much under heavy fire, and apparently through various reports, the Russians are making movements there. How vulnerable is that town and that whole area right now, and how significant would it be if it were to fall to Russia? I mean, there's that whole fortress belt nearby. So how critical is that part of the front line?
Well, that's a difficult question, I guess, but overall I would say that, Russian media and Russian propaganda and Russian military bloggers, all of them could portray that it's something that is that can be done very easily. It will be done soon because they want to obviously conform to the plans set up by Putin and military leadership overall. But in reality, what Russia is really trying to step into is actually urban warfare. That is very difficult, very complicated, and that would also involve even more casualties for Russia. So I would not make any predictions with regard whether Russia will succeed or not. I don't believe so. But even if it does, that would take a long time and also many casualties, for which is very painful for Putin actually right now, because as we've seen also in the previous days, that the forced mobilization has started in Russia. So actually the war comes back to Russia, as we've seen by the attacks, but also the Russian citizens, they feel the consequences of the war. Now they are being conscripted more forcefully. And then also for the past years, Russia has largely targeted citizens from the very far distant regions or bordering regions with Ukraine. And now we see what has been happening in Moscow and St. Petersburg, for instance.
And one of these questions also I want to just ask you, and just to make sure to our audience they understand this, is we've talked about all these a lot of drone attacks by Ukraine, really long range as well. How much, if you can tell us roughly, is this more domestically produced by the Ukrainians? I mean, are they using hardware and also weapons, obviously, that have come from allies, or is this something now more in the mainstay of what they're producing themselves?
Well, based on what I know, mostly those are innovative approaches and equipment specifically manufactured by Ukrainian domestic producers. You know, Ukraine's defense sector has become really huge. There are thousands and hundreds of companies that are trying to do whatever they can to offer meaningful solutions for Ukraine's needs. And of course, international partners are involved. Of course, there are venture capital firms that are very much interested and are already investing in Ukraine's defense tech startups, early stage or growth stage. So I think that this kind of collaboration will only be strengthened also based on the huge successes that Ukraine has achieved in the previous weeks and months.
Mm-hmm. It's also, I think, given Ukraine, as you said, operational capacity as well as success. We were seeing some images now, as you said, not just on the front line, but also deep inside Russia. One thing I want to also ask you about is Belarus. I mean, this is something that's come up not just recently, but I think it was even last week. It was the 18th of June when Zelensky warned the president of Belarus, Lukashenko, about removing those signal stations, communication equipment, very much by Russia, helping Russia. I mean, I think on those border regions with Belarus and Ukraine. He gave him a week to do it, to remove that equipment. That deadline's approaching this Thursday. What do you make? Is Zelensky going to hold true to that and remove them himself? Will he go that far?
Well, that is my personal opinion, but I would say that Belarus is directly involved in Russia's war against Ukraine. It has provided its territory for the offensive operation in the very beginning. Then it has been heavily involved into repairing Russia's military equipment, and as we see now, facilitating also drone strikes, some of which target also civilians in Ukraine. So I would say Ukraine has all the right to exercise its right for self-defense, and if Lukashenko does not do it, I'm 100% sure Ukraine can do it. But whether it will, I think it will.
I mean,
I don't think these kind of statements are being made just to scare Lukashenko, because I don't think those kind of statements would work on him. So, yeah.
Well, there's supposed to be a meeting as well between Putin and Lukashenko to discuss this, but in either case, has Zelensky to a certain point, I mean, he's committed himself to a challenging, difficult position, hasn't he, by just saying that?
I don't know. It depends on how you think about it. If you think about it as a strategist, probably it's not the best decision to do right now, right? Because you don't want to engage another country directly militarily and also commit some troops to that axis of potential resistance or military action. But on the other hand, if that is threatening the life of your civilian population, and if it also threatens probably also some military equipment and military venture, military factories in the west of Ukraine, then probably it's the right decision to do it now.
Mm-hmm. And just briefly, if we look and wrap it all up now with Donbas, with Crimea, the war in general, where are we headed in these next weeks and months?
You know, when I think about it, I remember that probably 2 or 3 years ago, I've read some forecasts made by various think tanks and research centers, especially, I guess, RUSI in the UK. And they were saying that 2026 will be pivotal for Russia in terms of the increased feeling of how war actually impacts its economy, the deficit in the budgets, low levels of mobilization that would require unpopular decisions on Russia's part. So all of that has already been seen by us as analysts, and we expect that Russia will be increasingly feeling the cost of its war, and that will continue. Although Russia's leadership believe they can make it till 2027, they are still saying all those maximalist goals that they've noted multiple times already. I would say that probably this year will be pivotal in the sense that we might actually start seeing more evident division within the Russian leaderships, and we already see a couple of reports that indicate that there is already a split between those who continue to support the war within Putin's cabinet and those who oppose it. So I think this year will be important in that respect. Potential division within Russia.
So a pivotal year indeed, and we'll of course cover it as it unfolds. Thanks so much for all that. The latest from Ukraine, Vitalii Rishko there. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching World Talks. But stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.